What if your life is not what you think it is? What if it's what you were taught to believe it is? And if that's true, who taught you? Who decided what success looked like? What beauty looked like? What power looked like? And why did you listen? Because somewhere along the way, human beings stopped becoming themselves and started becoming reflections of what the world rewarded. A strange performance began, not forced, reinforced. Smile this way, dress this way, speak this way, desire this, fear that, become someone worth seeing. And slowly the performance hardened into identity, like wet cement drying around awareness, until eventually the mask stops feeling worn and starts feeling like skin. What if I convinced you to wear a different mask tomorrow? A different haircut, different clothes, different status, different social circle. How much of your personality would suddenly change with it? Not because you changed, but because the world's reflection of you changed. As within, so without. The human self is built through mirrors. The modern self is a mirror hall mistaking reflections for identity. People spend their entire lives polishing masks while starving beneath them. And the terrifying part is, the mask often works. People applaud it, reward it, desire it. The ego feeds on witnesses the way fire feeds on oxygen. How many people must look at me for the mask to stop burning? How much applause does it take before the performance finally becomes peace? Because beneath status, beneath ambition, beneath the endless theatre of becoming, something still feels untouched. That's why achievement fades so quickly. Because the soul cannot feed on external reflection forever. And maybe that's why the richest people in the world often look spiritually starving. The rarest material in the universe, as far as humanity behaves, is attention. Gold only became valuable because human beings agreed to project meaning into it. And how much gold would a poor man kill for if the poor man believed gold could finally make the mask real? The dragons guarding treasure at the top of the mountain are often the furthest from touching the true riches beneath them. Because the more reality rewards the mask, the more terrifying it becomes to remove it. Some masks fit so tightly, the soul grows around them like scar tissue. And eventually, people forget they are wearing one. They call the performance personality. They call the conditioning identity. They call the inherited dream purpose. But deep down, there are moments where something beneath the performance starts breathing again. Late at night, alone, in silence. Moments where the world briefly stops demanding that you become someone. And for a second, you can feel it. Something beneath the mask watching quietly behind everything. Not wanting attention, not wanting status, just wanting to become real. Maybe that's the first fracture. Realizing the person you became may not be the person you truly are at all. And maybe that's why the mask forms so easily. Because human beings were never built to experience reality fully. Only enough of it to survive. Your eyes detect light between roughly 400 and 700 nanometers. That's what you call sight. 700 nanometers out of a spectrum so vast that what you're seeing barely registers as a fraction. Like standing at the edge of an ocean, touching one ripple, and believing you've touched the entire sea itself. Everything outside that range disappears completely. No color, no shape, no signal that anything is there at all. And yet the universe remains filled with it. Radiation moving through your body, signals passing through walls, invisible frequencies carrying structure through the air around you right now. What you call empty is overflowing. And modern physics makes this stranger still. Visible matter, stars, planets, galaxies, your body, appears to make up roughly 5% of the universe. The other 95%, dark matter and dark energy, remains almost entirely unknown, which means humanity built civilization inside a reality it can barely perceive. We just get the scraps. A thin survival layer floating on top of something immeasurably larger. And even those scraps arrive heavily edited. Your senses absorb millions of bits of information every second. Your awareness stabilizes almost none of it. Because consciousness survives by shrinking infinity into something survivable. The brain edits existence before you are allowed to experience it. Reality arrives shattered, and awareness glues the fragments together fast enough to call it a world. Edges smoothed, gaps filled, instability removed. Like stitching tears into fabric before the eye notices the rip. And even the moment you call now has already passed. There's roughly an 80 to 100 millisecond delay between what happens and what you become aware of. So you are always standing slightly behind reality, like chasing the edge of a wave that reaches the shore just before you touch it. And while that delay is happening, your brain predicts reality forward. It doesn't wait for the world to arrive, it guesses first, then quietly corrects itself when it's wrong. Which means certainty is not truth, it's a survival mechanism. Human perception is reality wearing training wheels. Not because reality is simple, but because the organism cannot survive direct contact with infinity. You feel on top of the world because the organism cannot survive feeling how small it actually is. And maybe that's the deepest fracture. Not that reality is hidden, but that the version surviving inside your mind feels complete. Like reading one sentence from an infinite library and mistaking that sentence for the entire story. What survived the cut feels whole, and that may be the greatest illusion of all. And maybe that's why human beings keep building the same things in different forms. Radios, Wi-Fi, networks, signals moving invisibly through space, carrying information between minds separated by distance. But maybe humanity did not invent these systems from nothing. Maybe we remembered them. Because every technology humanity creates looks strangely familiar, like a fossil of something consciousness already knows. The internet externalized what the mind was already trying to become. Civilization is consciousness reverse engineering itself. And maybe that's why human connection feels so strange sometimes. You walk into a room and feel tension before anyone speaks. You think about someone and suddenly they call. A crowd becomes emotional simultaneously without understanding why. Like human beings are constantly transmitting signals beneath language itself. Because thought behaves strangely. You do not see thoughts arrive, they appear. Like signals crossing the horizon of awareness, emotion moves even deeper. One anxious person can infect an entire room. One calm person can stabilize chaos around them. As though emotion itself moves between people like frequency. And maybe that's because awareness is not isolated inside the skull. Maybe consciousness is field-like. Not separate minds, but temporary receivers, inside something vastly interconnected. Quantum entanglement hints towards something similar. Particles, once connected, remain correlated across enormous amounts of distance, as though separation itself is not as absolute as human beings assume. And maybe consciousness follows the same law, not locked away inside isolated bodies, but moving through a larger structure the human mind can only partially perceive. Like waves believing they are separate from the ocean moving beneath them. And perhaps the mask prevents people from feeling this fully. Because identity creates distance, comparison, competition, performance. The deeper the mask becomes, the harder it becomes to feel the field beneath it. And maybe that's why modern life feels so disconnected. Not because humanity lost connection, but because it became too identified with separation. The frightening part is not that telepathy might exist, it's that separation may never have existed at all. That what you call the self may only be one localized expression of something infinitely larger, trying to know itself through you. The universe having a human experience. And maybe that strange feeling people carry through life, that subtle longing, that distance no achievement touches, that sense something is calling from beyond the noise, is not emptiness at all. Maybe it's the signal trying to return to its source. There would have been nights where everything felt lost. Not dramatically, quietly. The kind of silence that arrives after the world stops speaking. And for a moment, the performance weakens. No role to maintain, no image to protect, no audience to convince. Just you. And something underneath you that feels impossible to explain. Maybe you felt it before. That strange moment where your own life stops feeling entirely real. Not fake, just distant. Like you've been running for so long, you can no longer remember who started moving in the first place. Because civilization taught people to become someone before learning how to exist. And maybe that's the infection. Not money, not technology, the endless pressure to become more successful, more visible, more desired, more important, until human beings became so consumed by constructing identity, they lose contact with the thing beneath it. The soul remembers horizons the modern world replaced with walls. That's why silence feels uncomfortable now, because silence weakens the mask. And once the mask weakens, you begin hearing things differently. Wind through trees, rain against glass, ocean waves collapsing against the shore. Not as background noise, as reality breathing. Because the world beneath the mask is not hidden, it's suffocating beneath noise. Humanity became so loud it could no longer hear existence breathing. Maybe nature still affects people so deeply, because nature does not recognize performance. Nature does not care who you pretend to be. The ocean does not recognize status. The stars do not measure worth. Only humans built systems that confuse appraisal with meaning. And slowly, something inside you begins realizing the mask cannot enter where reality begins. Not because you are forbidden, but because identity itself depends on separation, comparison, fear, recognition. But beneath all that, something old awaits. Still, silent, watching. Like awareness itself has been sitting quietly behind your life this entire time. And maybe that's why modern life feels so exhausting. Because part of you already knows the person you perform as and the thing observing the performance are not the same. The veil lifts with the mask, and what waits beneath it is not another identity, not a higher status, not another performance polished into spirituality, but something prior to all of that. Awareness before conditioning, existence before performance, being before becoming. And if the veil truly lifts, you may not discover another world, you may discover the person beneath the one you were taught to become. Because maybe the greatest illusion was never reality itself. Maybe it was believing you were the mask all along.